Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasodanandana Brajjana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajjana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajjana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajjana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Girdhari Radha Girdhari Radhe. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Jam Vishpad Paramahamsa Pravajikacharya Sotara Satashi Srimade Sri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki. ISKCON BBT founder Charya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Kartik Vrata ki. Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki. Gaur Premanande. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to the assembled devotees. Our glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vacharane Nivishesha Shanali Paschadistarane. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're getting to hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, 27th chapter, attacked by Chandavega on the city of Paranjan. Text number 22. Who wrote the verse? Thank you, Ravi, for your nice service. Okay, Mai. Mayi samrambya vipula madachchapam sudushaham statumarhasi naikatra madhyachna vimuko mune Mayi samrambya vipula madachchapam sudusaham statum harasi naikatra madhyachna vimuko mune. Please. Mayi samrambya vipula madachchapam sudusaham statum arasi naikatra yajyachna vimuko mune. One more. Mayi samrabhya vipula madachchapam sadusaham statum arasi naitra madhyachna vimuko mune. Mayi, unto me. This is Narada Muni speaking. Samrabhya, having become angry. Vipula, unlimited. Madat, out of illusion. Sapam, curse. Sadusaham, unbearable. Statumarasi, you may remain. Na, never. Ekatra, in one place. Mat, my. Yachna, request. Vimuka, having refused. Mune, O great sage. Translation. The great sage Narada continued. When I refused to accept her request, whose request is it? You can say her other name. Yeah, she's old age. And what was the request? Bhakti Glenn? She wanted to marry Narada Muni. Now that's a problem. Why is it a problem, Roy? No. Because he's a Naistika brahmachari. He's taking the vow, I'm not going to marry. You're on the right track, though. So the great sage Narada Muni continued, when I refused to accept her request, she became very angry at me and cursed me severely. Because I refused her request, she said that I would not be able to stay in one place for a long time. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The great sage Narada Muni has a spiritual body. Therefore, old age, disease, birth, and death do not affect him. Narada Muni is the most kind devotee of the Supreme Lord. How's that for a nice glorification? And his only business is to travel all over the universe and preach God consciousness. In other words, his business is to make everyone a Vaishnava. Under the circumstances, there's ordinarily no need for him to stay in one place for more than the time he requires to preach. Since by his own free will he's already traveling all over the universe, the curse of Kala Kanya is described as fortunate. Like Narada Muni, many other devotees of the Lord are engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord in different places and in different universes. How broad is the scope of Srimad Bhagavatam and the teachings of Srila Prabhupada and our Acharyas? There are so many other devotees engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord in different places, so not just places of this world, in different planets of this universe, and even in different universes. Such personalities are beyond the jurisdiction of material laws. Do you know what the song of Sankirtan means? Balaram? Yeah, samyak, which means complete. So in other words, when you get everybody chanting, then it's complete. It's more potent. The Lord manifests. In that mood, could we chant our prayers together, asking for the mercy? Om Jnana-timirandasya Gnanjana Salakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyata Patikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gourange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakopa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama. One more time. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So before I begin saying anything, I'd like to say or share a little bit of the meditation I had while chanting japa yesterday. And that was, I'm so grateful to Srila Prabhupada that he has given us such a wonderful family of devotees, such a support system. And I want to express my gratitude to all of you, those listening, my gratitude to those who are in the distant past, who are sometimes forgotten, but their service was what was built upon, and the following devotees, that we have this worldwide movement. And without it, I know personally I would dread to think where I would be. But in terms of preaching, this is the instrumentality, the modality of Srila Prabhupada's offering of service to his spiritual master and Lord Chaitanya, the spreading of the Sankirtan movement. And we're so very fortunate to be a part of it. No matter how small that participation may be, we're so very fortunate. So having said that, I'd like to just bring up a couple things that are kind of like talking about the proverbial elephant in the living room. Now it's an interesting saying because it generally infers that nobody's talking about it. Well, some people that is the case, and then some people are talking about these elephants. It's more than one. In our mind, the living room of our mind, way more than we need to. And what is that? And why am I going to bring these things up? First of all, current events, COVID, it's a big deal. It's a reality, and you could say it two ways. It's actually two directions of looking at that which is. Some devotees would say we need to discuss the threat of COVID. And some devotees would say we need to discuss the fear of COVID. So when we discuss anything in current events, we're supposed to bring the Krishna conscious perspective to the table. I never got to the question last week, and I apologize, but there was one devotee named Vani, who I'd said the week before that I talked a long time, didn't get to your question. I said I'd address it in the next week. And so I'm going to bring it up now because it ties into the train of thought that I want to share with you. She asked, because of the nature of the material mind, how can we truly know that we are having revelations from Krishna and not from our own mental concoctions? Is that a beautiful question? Well, if you don't know the answer, then you definitely, if you're even asking the question, you definitely need to take shelter of Shastra, Guru. In our case, our founder Acharya, he set the bar. Everyone in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness accepts the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. He's the Param Siksha Guru of everyone. And then sadhus, devotees. 3 sources of confirmation. Are we on the right track? Are we off the track? And we're so very fortunate that we are able to take advantage of this. Now, in this regard, where will I go? That's not it. That's not it. I need to go to gallery. This is it. Go to a different place. So what can we say about COVID that Srila Prabhupada has said? Well, not a lot. He's not here. Not in person. That's kind of the way that just completely destroys like the Ritvik concoction of I can take initiation from Srila Prabhupada. But wait a second. What if somebody needs to pull your ear and you're thinking, well, I got my connection to Srila Prabhupada and he's not pulling it. You're left to the devices of your own mind, or your own understanding of his instructions. You need someone who you can hear from, you can ask questions from, that you can be directed / chastised, given shelter by. So anyway, the only thing that I can really think in this regard is Srila Prabhupada talked about there was a plague when he was a child in Calcutta. Am I right? Yeah. Was that plague cholera? I believe it was cholera. Now you don't hear much about cholera these days, but that was a plague. Dead bodies all over the city. People left in mass. Now that's a pandemic, that's an epidemic, that's a plague. You have proof. You see. No one's got to convince you by bombarding you with, it's here, it's here, it's here, it's dangerous. You see it right in front of you. What did Srila Prabhupada say that they did? They did Harinam. They did Harinam throughout the city. Plague went away. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has a quote about a plague. Those who have read his biography know this about the Thakur. He was born in a rich family, actually. Quite well-to-do. But you know what happened when he was a young boy? Cholera, the plague came through, killed the whole village. You got proof. You know this is a reality. And the rich family killed, deceased through the instrumentality of this disease of cholera. And he had to move with another relative, and it was much more humble and less well-to-do status in life, which nothing wrong with that. Got a taste of both, and it's really nice to see how this material world is. The evil of birth, death, disease, and old age is a fact. But let's hear what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says about the plague. He said, to fear the plague is not befitting to a Vaishnava. Just look, O brothers, what can the plague do to you? Will it harm you by taking away your useless life? If you wish to benefit yourself, let the plague epidemic be a lesson for you. If tomorrow the plague will get you, just imagine, you'll disappear and all your riches and happiness will vanquish. That's why do not waste your time. You have to constantly and sincerely with devotion chant the holy name of Hari. Now, I've kind of had this running theme for a few classes in that let me ask you, how do you know who is a Vaishnava? I've given this quote before. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, it's not by his appearance. I've got tilak on, I'm wearing a garland. Am I a devotee? It's not simply by the appearance. It's not even simply by the words they speak. We generally use that as the medium. Is he speaking nonsense, or is he always speaking about Krishna, directly or indirectly? Krishna and his services, etc. But that's not always a standard either. You understand who a Vaishnava is by his qualities. And I'll probably muff it. I wasn't thinking about quoting this part, but Sarvai Ganas Tatra Samasate Sara Yashasti Bhaktir Bhavati Kinchana Savash. Yeah, I'm muffing it. But it is Prahlad Maharaj saying that a devotee will manifest all good qualities. And the downside of it is devotees, non-devotees rather, do they really have any good qualities? We can say no, or we can purport and say, well, yeah, they have some, but the problem with their good qualities is that they're based in the material realm. There's always the modes, there's always the mental platform, and if it's not convenient for me to stay true to the quality that is admirable, if it gets in the way, what happens? They chuck it out the door and they just do what is best for accomplishing their own desires. Forget anybody else's problem with my behavior, my mentality, etc. Because it's about me. But the devotee, it's about Krishna. And so a devotee is meant to develop so many qualities. So as long as we're in the bodily concept of life, then we stunt ourselves from coming to the true qualities that are there within us, that we possess eternally. Because the modes inadvertently come and they affect us. It's just a fact. This morning we heard Dravida Prabhu quote from a purport, Madhya Lila 6:235, I believe, where it was stated that as long as you're in the bodily platform of life, Lord Chaitanya says you can't really render devotional service to the Lord. Now this means unalloyed service or loving service. Bhakti really means prema bhakti. In the highest absolute sense, that which captures Krishna, that which allows the devotee to subordinate the Lord to their wishes. Damodar Leela ki, Mother Yasoda ki. You can't render it. And if you can't render that service, then how are you going to understand Krishna? What to speak of capture Krishna? Two of the prayers in the Damodar Astakam, Satyavrata Muni is begging the Lord to please appear within my mind and heart. This is the desire of such a devotee. Every devotee, serious devotee, they want to see Krishna. They want to please Krishna. They want to come to the point that Krishna wants to see them, reveal himself within the heart. And in the 6th verse, I wanted to make mention of this. We chanted Hare Krishna before class for this reason. Everything is about chanting Hare Krishna and the names of God. That is the only method, the prime method, according to Sanatana Goswami's purport on Damodar Astakam, that allows the Lord, that forces or which causes the Lord to reveal himself within your heart. Nam Sankirtan. And that's why in the 6th verse, he's calling out to the names of the Lord. What is it? Let's get the Sanskrit here. Hey Deva, Namo Deva, O Damodar, O Ananta, Vishnu, Prabhu. This is Nam Sankirtan. He's calling out the names of the Lord. And he's doing it because he's begging, please lift me up from this ocean of miseries. We have the adjective worldly miseries, but that's only part of the misery of Satyavrata Muni. The misery of his, and it is called, quote unquote, misery of his longing in separation from Damodar, from Krishna is burning worse than the universal fire. And from that source of angst and yearning, he's chanting the names of Krishna. And that's where Krishna reveals himself. That's where prema descends. So it's worth noting that, we follow in the footsteps of these devotees. We pray. Okay, it's a gradual progress. But I want to make mention, now we revert once again to the words of Srila Prabhupada, because I was talking about COVID and qualities. 12 chapter Bhagavad Gita devotional service. I won't read the verse, I'll just read the purport. Srila Prabhupada says, coming again to the point of pure devotional service, the Lord is describing the transcendental qualifications of a pure devotee in these 2 verses. A pure devotee is never disturbed in any circumstances. Doesn't matter what he's thrown into. I was thinking of saying it till later, but Narada Muni's cursed in this verse, right? Did he have a big problem with that? Had no problem at all. Lord Chaitanya, he was cursed by a Brahmin who couldn't get into the nocturnal kirtans of Lord Chaitanya and his associates at Srivasa's house. He was really angry. So angry he cursed Nimai, who he considered Nimai Pandit. He cursed Lord Chaitanya. Did Lord Chaitanya have a problem with it? You know what the curse was? No, close. Bhogaishvarya. You'll have no material happiness, no material sense gratification. Lord Chaitanya, he began to dance. Why, thank you very much. I don't need that pot of poison. I don't want to drink it. So curses are accepted by the devotees of the Lord as his mercy. Chitraketu is another wonderful example. He was kind of amused. Oh my God, I know how exalted Lord Shiva is, but he's giving Bhagavatam class and he's got his wife sitting right there in his lap. Now how would that look on the internet if Chatur was sitting right here and I'm giving Srimad Bhagavatam class? Now, it would at least deserve one good joke. At least. So in that mood, Chitraketu goes, wow, this is quite a sight for one of the Mahajans who we're all supposed to try and emulate and follow the example from. Well, Mother Parvati didn't like the joke at all. You're going to slight my husband? And just verbally. That's basically, just verbally. And she cursed him. Basically to, become a demon, wasn't it? You've got the mentality of a demon. Next life, demon's body. How did Chitraketu respond? I wish the camera had been on Dravida Prabhu. He goes, Do you know the verse he quoted? Heaven, hell? I tried looking it up in the short time. Do you know, Prabhu? I'm sorry you couldn't hear that if that's the case. But whether a devotee's in heaven or hell, he doesn't care. He'll continue to worship and serve the Lord. He's undisturbed. This is the shelter, this is the potency of engaging in transcendental devotional service to the Lord. So a pure devotee is never disturbed in any circumstances. Well, the whole world's disturbed right now, but we're not meant to be disturbed. This is what we should be keeping in mind and aspiring for, practicing. Nor is he envious of anyone, nor does a devotee become his enemy's enemy. Now here's where I'm going to insert the second elephant in the living room of our mind. This is what, November 1st or 2nd? Tomorrow in America, we have presidential elections and so many other elections. Now, evidently, this is a super huge deal. It is such a super huge deal. I've seen on social media devotees arguing with each other and cursing each other in high caps. The full letter. The full word. And I'm going, bigger, worse. I don't need to, this isn't the platform. But Tapas Prabhu, if you're watching now and you're looking for a title of this class, in my mind it is a plea for unity. Now, this is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So our mentality, our consciousness is supposed to be a little bit bigger than just the United States of America. Srila Prabhupada in, was it Tallahassee? Or in Gainesville saying, we're in a very remote corner of the world, far distant from Mayapur Dham. Giving just a little perspective to it. Or when he chastised Tamal Krishna Goswami, he thinks he's such a big controller, big manager. When he took it from the universe, the world, the countries, the states, the city, and this little tiny street of La Hacienda or whatever it was. It's like, keep it in perspective, my dear brothers, sisters, and Prabhus. This is not the International Society for Democratic Consciousness, Krishna Consciousness, or Republican Krishna Consciousness. Now, with folded hands, I can say on a relative platform, yeah, we're at a quite a point in history. There's two different paths looming ahead with the two different personalities engaged in this battle. But, if you step back just a couple of feet and just realize it's a joke. I've said it before, it's a B-rate movie. And it's not necessary. The bodily consciousness certainly isn't necessary. The body itself isn't necessary. What is the absolute necessity? Prema Pumarta Mahan. Love for Krishna. I read a purport last night where Srila Prabhupada said, Mother Yasoda, she's got the prime necessity. She can't live without lovingly serving her son. This is what we're supposed to be following the example of, molding our consciousness under the guidance of our Guru. That we can't live without the loving service of the Lord and His devotees. When you're fixed in that consciousness, then it doesn't matter what wave comes and washes over you. It doesn't matter. It's the mercy of the Lord. So we may disagree on everything under the sun. That's a lot. But what do we agree on? That which is beyond the influence of the sunshine. That which is beyond the coverings of this universe. That which is beyond the Brahman. We agree in the supremacy of Krishna and in our eternal subordination and necessity of serving Him in love. The Sankirtan movement we all agree on. And that's what we need to be absorbed in. Tamal Krishna Goswami, can I quote him? He's a good quote. He's a good source, isn't he? Okay, where is he? That's the problem with... Okay, we're getting there. He said, and I just wanted to get if you sit all day without preaching, then you will fall into Maya. Now, we're not meant to really be political. Lord Chaitanya set the example. He was apolitical. He didn't care if the Muslims ruled. He didn't care if the Hindus ruled. But Patapa Rudra was ruler of Puri. He didn't associate with him. Muslim ruler, he certainly didn't. But when the ruler tries to stop the Sankirtan movement, that's when he got involved. I can quote that as an example. The names of Krishna have to be propagated. That's why he came, and nothing should stop us in trying to assist him in giving Krishna consciousness to everyone. This is the mood of the Acharyas. Bhaktivinoda writes a song. When everyone in the universe was chanting Hare Krishna, then he and Narada Muni were dancing in ecstasy. Srila Prabhupada said that to one of his disciples, yes, it is my wish that everyone in the universe, you wonder why he didn't think small or why he thought big. Be so bold. Goes to Chicago. Crime's an issue. That was the fear program back then. Crime. It was a huge issue. What was the exact quote? Why and what to do. Well, you should give us a building. I notice there's a vacant building here, or the government owns this building. You should give it to us so that we can actually show you how crime is eradicated. He didn't think small because, and I could use 5 or 6 verbs in this sentence, because he tasted the excitement of the revolution of spreading Krishna consciousness. He saw the excitement. He heard, he felt. Use any one of these verbs. He was absorbed in it. He was caught in it. He couldn't help but direct his entire life's energy to the propagation of this Sankirtan movement. And it's interesting. I'm going to finish this purport, and then I'm going to bring something back that I could dart off on. So enemies. Devotee doesn't become his enemy's enemy. If you think that devotees are becoming your enemy because they don't agree with you on some perspective of the relative world, this is a neophyte platform. It's the mode of ignorance. It's that which displeases the Lord. It's like offering, ghee into the ashes, Kapila Dev says. One of the offenses, first offense is to blaspheme devotees of the Lord, dedicate their lives to propagation, holy names. Not to be happy when you see a devotee. Well, if you're thinking that guy's a Republican, that guy's a Democrat, that guy thinks masks are foolish, that guy, you think any of these things, and this is what comes to your mind first and foremost, or you're afraid. You know, can I inject just a touch of humor, and I hope it'll be taken as humor? This is what those who aren't devotees wish. Thank you. That we think like this. Ito kavidha, parato kavidho. Yato yamitato kavidha. Bair kavidho, ridaye kavidho. Kavidho aham sharnam prapadye. COVID's everywhere. It's there, it's here, it's up, it's down, it's inside, it's outside. If you hear and chant about COVID all the time, then you end up surrendering. You're giving that which is most precious and most valuable. Your consciousness, your time, your attention. We're meant to focus on Krishna, His glories, and His service. So we don't take enemies. We don't become their enemy. It's better to suffer than to protest. In the Bhagavatam, it's stated, Tate nukampam sutsamikshamano bunjano evatmakam vipakam. Whenever a devotee is in distress or has fallen into difficulty, he thinks it's the Lord's mercy upon him. He thinks, thanks to my past misdeeds, I should suffer far, far greater than I'm suffering now. So it is the mercy of the Supreme Lord that I'm not getting all the punishment I'm due. I'm just getting a little. By the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, a devotee is always calm, quiet, patient, despite many distressful conditions. Devotee is always kind to everyone, even to his enemy. Nirmana means that a devotee does not attach much importance to the pains and trouble pertaining to the body, because he knows perfectly well that he's not the material body. He does not identify with the body. Therefore, he's freed from the conception of false ego and is equiposed in happiness and distress. I think I'll end at that half of the purport. One line from purport of 16. A devotee never takes the part of a particular party. Therefore, he's carefree. He's never pained because he's freed from all designations, because he knows that the body is a designation. So if there's some bodily pains, he's free. And last but not least, we may find some repetition in the descriptions of the qualifications of a devotee, but this is just to emphasize the fact that a devotee must acquire all these qualifications. Without good qualifications, one cannot be a pure devotee. Harava bhaktasya kato mahadgana. One who's not a devotee has no good qualifications. One who wants to be recognized as a devotee should develop the good qualifications. Of course, he does not extraneously endeavor to acquire these qualifications. Do you know what extraneous means? I looked it up. It means separate from, additional to. So we're simply trying to focus on bhakti. And following, as Srila Prabhupada said in the last line of this purport I was reading, such a standard devotional service is undoubtedly very rare, but a devotee becomes situated in this stage by following the regulative principles of devotional service. Furthermore, the Lord says that such a devotee is very dear to Him. So we can't mechanically just perform the regulations given by the spiritual master. We have to desire, apply our consciousness to developing the qualities that Krishna will be attracted to. So, one last quote. This is from Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and then I think I'll sum it up. Let's see if I can get back to that real quickly. Here it is. This is in regards to why do people become angry? Well, I could quote one verse, because we don't realize that the Lord is not separate from anything and everything of this world, and that He owns everything in this world. But when we forget this and think, I'm the proprietor, I'm the enjoyer, I'm the real friend, I've got the absolute truth and I can give it to you. When we think like this, that we're the big cheese, then when our desires are inevitably unfulfilled, then we become angry. That's just the way the laws of nature work. Anger has its place, but this is not what it's about, getting angry at a devotee because they have a different opinion than us. Even in Krishna consciousness. Because we said everyone follows Srila Prabhupada's instructions, but there's so many levels to and different ways to understand His instructions, because ultimately it's infinite. It's inconceivable, and we do our best, guided by Guru, Sadhus, and Shastra. So I wanted to make this point, because when things get out of hand and they're not going your way, and when you're becoming angry, or seriously, some people are going to think life as we know it is finished in a couple of days, that life is ruined, I should immediately move to Greece or something. I mean, some people, so attached, thinking that Krishna consciousness will not survive this, or I will not survive this. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, the world stands in no need of any reformer. The world has a very competent person for guiding its minutest happenings. The person who determines that there is scope for reform of the world himself stands in need of reform. The world goes on in its own perfect way. No person can deflect it even the breadth of a hair from the course chalked out for it by Providence. When we perceive any change being actually effected in the course of events of this world by the agency of any particular individual, we must know very well that the agent possesses no real power at any stage. The agent finds himself driven forward by a force belonging to a different category from himself. The course of the world does not require to be changed by the agency of any person. What is necessary is to change our outlook on this world. This was done for the contemporary generation by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It can only be known to the recipients of His mercy. The scriptures declare that it is only necessary to listen with an open mind to the name of Krishna from the lips of a bona fide devotee. As soon as Krishna enters the listening ear, He clears up the vision of the listener so that he no longer has any ambition of ever acting the part of a reformer of any other person, because he finds that nobody is left without the very highest guidance. It's therefore his own reform that he is increasingly able to realize by the eternally continuing mercy of the Supreme Lord. So I suppose just a little purport to that. These are the words of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, yet he gave gallons, hundreds of gallons of blood to make others Krishna conscious. But it's not our business to defeat anybody. That's an exact quote from one of our acharyas, Bhaktisiddhanta or Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I believe it's Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. It's not our business to defeat anybody. Our business is to offer Krishna consciousness. And those that are the best in offering Krishna consciousness through the medium of book distribution, for example. I've heard from many a devotee that they look for those who are interested. If they see there's the least little bit of inclination or receptivity, you look for the ripe fruits. Because you can't force anybody to become Krishna conscious. You can't, because they have free will. That's all we have is our desire and our independence. And even Krishna will never, ever touch that. You're free? What do you think, Arjuna? I've explained my desire to you. What do you want to do? So the devotees are looking for those who are interested. We offer to everybody, but if somebody's interested, then we really focus on such persons. We want to share what we have. Because those who have the preaching spirit, they're engaged in preaching. And nothing will stop them from preaching. And if they're not allowed, we've had so many things in our movement. This is getting back to the plea for unity. Our movement has been challenged in my short time, or I shouldn't say short time. In the link that I've seen, what was it? The transition of devotees taking up the service of Diksha Guru, boy, was that a big one. Took about 5 years before it really got taken down to a point where it wasn't offensive, where there wasn't imitation. Instead, there was following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, and where there wasn't discouragement to disciples of Srila Prabhupada, which the movement was primarily made of at that time. We had the Ritvik program, Ritvik Gurus, that was a big one. We had the fall from Vaikuntha, people were leaving for that. We have female Diksha Guru now, like that's a big thing that could, cause, civil war in the movement. Editing of the books, the list goes on and on and on. Srila Prabhupada told us, he warned us, Maya from the outside can't stop Lord Chaitanya's movement. It can't stop it. Maya doesn't hold it. She doesn't want to. It's her service to challenge, to test the devotees. But the only way this movement will be stopped, will be thwarted, is if those of us in the family choose to argue, fight, and not cooperate with each other. There's a big, important understanding of unity in diversity. And, everything should be understood with such mentality. We have to cooperate on what we agree. Everything else, especially of the outside world, it's inconsequential. But application of the principles of the Sankirtan movement, we have to discuss threadbare. Discussion should never be suppressed. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami said, don't hesitate to engage in these topics because they're controversial. They will strengthen the mind. And that's if you're engaged in the conversation in the quality or in the mood of a gentleman and a devotee. That's so important. So, on this note, Narada Muni, he got cursed. He didn't have a problem because he is the most kind devotee of the Lord. And here's the verse I'll end on. It's stated we're supposed to end up with something sweet. How's this? Patapa Rudra came and started chanting the prayers of the gopis, searching for Krishna. And when he heard these prayers, he said, go on speaking, go on speaking. And then when he came to this verse, Tavakatam ritam tapta jivanam, he got up and he embraced him. He said, you've given me invaluable jewels. Go on, please, and I'm so sorry I have nothing to offer in your return, so I'm simply embracing you. And he began to cry when he heard this verse. And he said, again, say it again, say it again. So this is the verse that got the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for Patapa Rudra. The gopis said, my Lord, the nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities are the life and soul of those who are always aggrieved in this material world. These narrations are transmitted by exalted personalities, and they eradicate, the words eradicate all sinful reactions. Whoever hears these narrations attains all good fortune. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Those who spread the message of Godhead are certainly the most munificent welfare workers. Munificent. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, it means you are generous beyond expectation. Let's be an instrument in the hands of this movement and our spiritual masters of Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya, and try to spread the glories of Krishna and encourage others to take it up. So, I was a little shorter than last time. Any questions or comments? Should look online. It was a mouthful, wasn't it? ISKCON SanDiego and okay, here we go. I was criticized for my laugh. Sorry. Mataji, he gives good classes, but his laugh is a little bit too loud. Maybe I should. She goes, a devotee is sober, not too funny, not too serious. You won't see me proclaiming the glories of my devotion very often, Mataji. I apologize if it disturbs you. Madhusudana, it was either in a lecture or written, Srila Prabhupada said that Narada Muni is practically the spiritual master of everyone. He's made so many disciples throughout the universe. Thank you for sharing, Madhusudana Prabhu. So, unto all of you, may you have a wonderful Krishna conscious day. Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki.